as you know that India has a big coastline of 7,800 kilometers. A lot of construction activities are taking place in and around the coastline, typically 50 kilometers inland. And being high humid area and lot of salinity in the air, so all the steel infrastructure that is prone to the corrosion. So that was the purpose to call you to appeal to the specifiers, because if media says something, then specifiers generally take note of that. So if you can mention that in all the public infrastructure, the galvanized steel should be used, because generally what is happening, you have seen that steel is getting painted, and after every 2 or 3 years, government again spend a lot of money on repainting of those steel infrastructure, be it a bus station or be it a foot-over bridge or any other thing. So why not, being a taxpayer, we should ask government to go for a long-term sustainable solution. And you are free to ask any question during our interaction. Professor Pillai can give you the actual position of Chennai, and also Mr. Tomy Sebastian, he have got solution for residential problems and how you can beautify your house. So Professor Pillai, if you want to speak something.
Thank you, Rahul and Tomy, for this opportunity, and to IZA for giving me this chance. Yes, so I think, the first question which I would like to ask is, how long, what is the typical life for let's say new structure, is it okay? Yeah. So what is the life which you really expect from a concrete structure?
50 years.
50 years?
Yeah.
What type of structure?
General structure.
Like buildings or bridges, roads?
Buildings.
Buildings. So 50 years. So can you think of a structure which is made with steel reinforced concrete, which is having no issues for the last 50 years? No corrosion should be there. It's very difficult to find structures where we do not do much of maintenance work. Yes, there will be structures, but we have already invested a lot of money on maintaining that. So that's what we call as cost of corrosion. Maintaining means, major repair because of corrosion. So we remove the concrete cover, put new concrete, and then remove the steel, or add more steel reinforcement, etc., etc. And this also create a lot of indirect cost. So what is indirect cost? Sometimes indirect cost is more than the direct cost. The reason is mainly because, let's say you stop usage of a building or a bridge. People have to go around, and the more time you will spend in car rather than actually either at home or in office. So those kind of things can be avoided if we have whatever we build, if it is lasting for longer time as you expect. So we call that life as service life or target service life. Evla naal adu last part. So if you say 50 years, for the 50 years I should not be doing any structural repair. Just like we change cloth every day, painting is fine, because that is more to do with the aesthetics of the structure. We change cloth every day, but our bone and flesh we don't change every day. So we are talking about bone and flesh. When we talk about concrete structures, the main concept of today's discussion is mainly not the cosmetic stuff, but the skeleton of the building. The beams, columns, roof element, those are the things which we are. Just like Chennai, we have, see, what are the main causes for corrosion is you have chlorides from the seawater, airborne chlorides are there, And then, so if you go to some of the building in the coastline, you will see one side as having a lot more problem than the other side of the same building. You will see that. So the reason is because you have this chlorides coming from, carried by the air, chlorides from the seawater. So that's one major reason. Another reason is the carbon dioxide. Where is carbon dioxide coming from? All the vehicles which we have, exhaust. So wherever the concrete structure, they are all mostly on ground. Ground level carbon dioxide is high where you have the buildings or where you have the bridges. So these are two major reasons for corrosion to happen. Chlorides and carbon dioxide. Of course, oxygen, water, all that is also play important things. But for concrete structures, this we consider as the two major things which will lead to corrosion. But now coming back to the normal, so we know this. It's a coastal city, so we have a problem because of that. Now also groundwater. See, if you look very carefully, like some of the buildings which were built very early, they don't have problems, but the newer ones have problems. That is because mostly, I think it is because of the water, the borewell which we use for construction. Borewell will have chlorides. The water from the borewell, that might have chlorides. So because of all these reasons, we are, given concretes which are probably not as good as expected in the written documents. So what do? One way is to make sure that the water which we use doesn't have chlorides. Sometimes it might become expensive, sometimes it might be very difficult also. Other is improve the quality of the concrete which we make, and other option is use better quality steel. So how do we improve the quality of the steel? So if you ask people, generally say put some coating or stainless steel rebar. Stainless steel rebar means it's going to be very, very costly. You can't even afford that. Okay. So a little cheaper option is to go with some kind of coating, so that the coating will protect the steel from corrosion. The thin layer on the rebar, that will protect the steel from corrosion. Now what type of material we can use for coating? That's also very important. If you just put paint on the rebar, it won't work. Why it will not work? Because paint பண்ணும்போது, even though with your naked eyes, it may look very good, but with a microscope look there will be lot of holes in that. So the water molecules, the chloride molecules, oxygen molecules, or all these will penetrate through that thing. Chinna crack irukku, adu microscope paatha dhaan theriyum. Ipo epoxy coated rebar adella lot of issues are there with such kind of rebars, epoxy coated rebars, because it's a polymeric material. When you put that rebar out in the sun just for 2-3 weeks, if you let it exposed to sunlight, it will crack. You may not be able to see it with naked eye, but if you put it in a microscope, very clearly we will be able to see that. So the coating should not be a soft material. And also in a construction site, do we handle rebars like babies?
Wait.
Yes or no?
No.
We just throw them, I have even seen, backhoes, the JCB, parked on the rebars, epoxy coated rebars. So they will, if you look very carefully, next time when you see this green color bar is what I am talking about. Everywhere we see, sometimes this green color bar. So those bars, those coatings will have lot of scratches on them. Lot of scratches will be there, it will be peeled off. All sorts of issues like that is there. In the evening I am going to cover, I will show you some nice photographs and all that to showcase this problem. We are really, I say it is criminal sometimes to allow this kind of inferior products, So the person who is approving should also ensure that the prescription is properly followed on site. It's not just say something and then use something. So careful, konjam enna mari materials use pannala, adukku and the site, is it good for civil engineering? See, I am not saying epoxy coating is bad. I am not saying that. Problem is, at the factory it might be good. By the time it reaches a construction site, and by the time concrete comes in contact with it, by the time we put the concrete on that rebar and the steel rebar or epoxy coated bar, by that time it gets damaged. So that processing was the problem. So we were thinking like, how to avoid or get rid of this problem. One option is to go for a coating which is very
cheap.
Money is definitely a thing, but which is not very soft. If you walk over that, it should not scratch. So metallic coating is the one option, or a coating which is very hard, but it should not crack when you bend the bar. It should not crack. So that's also another, and it should not get damaged when it is exposed to sunlight. These are some of the 3-4 things which are important to look at when you talk about coated rebars. Any paint if you put on the rebar, it's actually going to create more problem than advantage. We have studied actually if the coating is not good, you will actually spend more money and get inferior products. In one of the PhD thesis in IIT Madras, we found that life can decrease by 70% if you don't use proper coating. If you use this epoxy coating with the scratch on that. So it's very, very important to, it's like this, you have a shirt, if everywhere I have holes, then I'll get good air inside, no? You don't feel that. Same like that. So you cannot have cracks on the coating. So this metallic coating, one of the widely used metallic coating all over the world is galvanized coating. Okay. Simple example, if you want to know what it is, at your home, we put this earthing pipe for electric short circuit, right? That earthing pipe, what is the metal used on that? It's an iron pipe with zinc coating. So that's what is galvanized. This is probably the very first. Why it is used? Because my objective is to protect that iron pipe. Zinc will corrode before the iron corrodes. So we say galvanized iron pipe. So electrical post, you will see this greyish color, no? That is galvanized iron. So why? Because the zinc will corrode before the steel corrodes. So there is a competition between steel and zinc. Who will corrode first? Okay, who will sacrifice first? So zinc will always corrode before the steel corrodes. This is the main reason why we connect zinc and steel. And here, when you talk about a rebar, if you think about if suppose this is a rebar and you have very thin layer of coating, so the amount of volume required for the zinc volume required is very less, right? So because of that, see, because the corrosion happens only on the surface, not inside the steel. So I don't have to put change that steel rebar into a zinc bar. It is not required and it's very costly. So we go for a targeted approach, saying that I need only surface to be coated, so that my cost of the rebar is less and at the same time I get better performance or better corrosion resistance. Now, for simple note, if you tell for a steel rebar, if we say amount of chloride required to initiate or to start corrosion, if we say 1 unit or 1 gram chloride for steel to start corroding. In case of zinc coated rebar, you will require about 2 times, 2x. Okay. So apply chloride to get accumulated inside the concrete, it will take much longer time. So this is why we are talking about use of zinc coated or galvanized steel bars for concrete structures. Main idea is to delay the onset of corrosion. If a normal structure it takes 50 years, you keep everything else same, just change the bar, you might get 100 years of life. Okay, might. I'm not saying like, but definitely it is not 50 to 60. It's not. You get much more than more life. That is possible. Only thing is change, because see, there are some things which you cannot really change overnight. Like if you say concrete quality, it depends on the person, the type of cement you use, type of aggregates you use, type of all the raw materials which you use, and the mason. And if the concreting is happening in the night, daytime, depends on lot of factors play a role in getting the quality concrete. But steel is a manufactured, it's manufactured in a controlled environment, like in a steel plant. So where coating is also done in a controlled manner. So you can actually ensure better quality in terms when it comes to steel. It is possible. Better quality control is possible. Okay. So I will keep on talking like this. So the one thing I would say definitely, the cost of corrosion as per the reports, it's about 3 to 5% of the gross domestic product, GDP, it says. Now, but I would say that this 3 to 5% is based on the very, very limited data available. I was involved in collecting data for that report in one of the, in 2015 we did some survey, and there were, the main question was, ask every company, whoever participating in that survey, we asked a question, do you have a person in your company who deals with corrosion management? And you won't believe, people actually walked out of the survey. So, see, for example, if you talk about a pipeline or offshore structures and all that, there is a more risk is involved. Civil structures, like we say, we'll manage it like that, no? So that the perception on the risk is very less. So we believe that risk is we think that risk is a little less as compared to other industries. So that is why we don't have corrosion management people in many of the civil, but slowly things are changing. I think we will, eventually we will have. Now only we are talking about durability, service life, we are now only thinking. So definitely when we are realizing these needs, we will actually probably have person whose job is to ensure that the structures are durable. So that durability is becoming more and more important, because nowadays we are investing, or rather, we are investing a lot more money on making the structures more durable and more corrosion resistant. So this kind of needs are going to increase, and also initial investment. If you put a little bit extra money in the beginning, capital, if you put a little bit extra money, if you can get double the life, there's nothing better than that, no? We always say that there is no sustainability without durability. So whenever we construct something, we should think how long I can extend that structure to last for without demolishing it. So that's a very key concept. Sustainability cannot be achieved without durability of the structure. Okay, now I'll maybe I talk too much.
So now I request Mr. Tomy Sebastian to brief us that how is making our life more happier. So zinc doesn't not necessarily used only in infrastructure but also in residential applications.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Let me thank Rahul for inviting me for this meeting. Now, Professor Pillai has in detail explained about the loss due to corrosion. Now that is primarily about steel structures, but in our day-to-day life, the loss is actually much more, because steel is not the only material we use, and we are talking specifically about the interior, your home interiors. The most commonly used material inside your home is actually wood. Your cupboards, your furniture, your doors, your windows, everything is manufactured in wood. And again, the concept of cost of ownership. You have spent X amount of money to create that. Now for the next 20 years, 30 years or 40 years, when you're going to use that residence, you need to keep on spending money. And the reason is, it's a fight against the weathering elements of nature. Corrosion, put in simple terms, is basically oxidization of metal. Steel is primarily iron. Iron in its natural condition acts as iron oxide. So, nature has a tendency to bring back things to equilibrium. Same thing happens to wood or people or whatever, After a certain period of time, nature brings it back to the elements. Wood, the main problem which people face is actually termites. I am sure most of the people here, in their residences, or in their near circle, friends, family, etc., would have seen the cost of the problem of termite infestation. You can see doors getting eaten away by termites. You can see kitchens, wardrobes, etc., being eaten away by termites. So we, as a company, we started looking at this from a different perspective. We were actually doing things in another material. We provide interior solutions to customers. And when we saw that, one of the factors which is preventing in increasing the conversion from wood to more sustainable material is actually cost. Now, galvanized iron is actually one of the lowest cost options available, which can increase the life of a product substantially. One of the reasons why galvanized iron is so popular is because actually the protection which zinc affords to steel is actually an electrochemical process. They call zinc the mother of steel. The reason is because zinc sacrifices itself over a period of time, protecting iron. It's called, I think Professor Pillai, cathodization or sacrificial protection. And one big, like Professor Pillai said, the problem with painting is that if you have a scratch on the paint, you will see that area getting corroded. The big advantage of zinc is that the protection is actually electrochemical. Even if there is a scratch and if the steel is exposed, still because of the electrical nature of protection, the steel will still be protected by zinc. Now, like I said, the other material which is predominantly used in home construction or home interiors is wood. And off late, if you see, you can see a lot of presence of steel structures, the door frames and doors, etc., being manufactured on local levels, and the wooden structures are getting replaced. Organized players like Tatas and JSW, etc., they have also launched their brands called Tata Pravesh. How many of you have heard of it? I don't know. But Tata Pravesh is one thing. I was talking to someone in the industry and I was surprised that they have their own factory, but the demand is so high that they have actually contracted many other factories to manufacture Tata Pravesh. Which means there is actually a huge problem which customers are facing as individuals. If you invest in a house, let us say 50 lakhs, 60 lakhs, whatever, and you have to then supplement it after 5 years to replace the doors and windows or replace the cupboards. And it is not only the replacement cost. I have come across people who have actually kept Kanchipuram sarees inside a wardrobe. You don't use it very frequently. 2 years, 3 years down the line, they want to go for a marriage, they take it out and they find it is all eaten away by termites. So the cost of this is actually very high, and the incremental cost, like Professor Pillai said, if you are able to spend that incremental cost over a wooden kitchen or a wooden wardrobe or a wooden door, then the life which you get out of it is much longer than that incremental cost which you are going to incur. Another thing which we want to dispel is, many people feel that steel, it will be industrial kind of looking, ugly, we prefer wood with nice varnishing, it is actually very easy to finish, you get beautiful colors. But what we've done is that we have actually applied treatments to the steel structure, which gives you a quality which is actually as good as any of the best in the industry. I don't know how much time we have, otherwise I could show you some of the images of the kitchens which we are talking about, so that you get a feel of what we are talking about. I would request Gaurav to, if we can.
We remove the projectors.
Oh, you removed it? Okay, sorry. So the point is that if you're looking for long durable solutions, then metal is the way to go. And when we combine that with the cost effectiveness of the material, GI actually has no competition. We work with other material also, like stainless steel. Stainless steel, 1 kg is 300 rupees. GI is 60 rupees. You can see the huge differential in the price, which will give you similar results as stainless steel. So, I think that is it from me. If you have anything which you want to know, please feel free to ask.
The question is that the government should take initiative regarding these buildings.
In a structure, you make sure, people will always take the steel from that, right? Because you can recycle it and make new steel products with it. So that way sustainability, if you really look at it, steel is considered to be very sustainable material. Even if the embodied energy, sometimes we say that is high in case of steel, but if you look at all the aspects together and for the whole life cycle, then probably steel is considered to be very sustainable in nature. Because once you take it out of the earth, you can keep on using it again and again for the new and new products. So
The government should take a policy decision, no? No, government should take policy decision to make people to use galvanized steel.
Yeah, see, the policy decisions, a lot of, we are working towards that, because especially when you talk about this for the concrete infrastructure, we keep telling that, adopt materials which will last longer. Even though like the initial cost may be a little higher, but the life cycle cost, usually when we compare cost, we should not really only look at the, of course you have to look at initial investment, but that is not the only thing. Where we should also look at the something called life cycle cost. What does it take, like if something we are building for 100 years, what does it take for that 100 years? How much money we will require, not just in the beginning. Something which costs, let's say 50 rupees in the beginning, and if you have to repair every 10 years, so every 10 years if you want to put 10 rupees like that, so for 100 years it will become 150 rupees or close to that. Whereas if you invest, let's say 75 rupees with a better product in the beginning and no repair after that, so the life cycle cost of the second option is just 75 rupees. Whereas in the first option, in the beginning you spend 50 rupees, but later every year let's say 10 years you're spending. So the total life cycle cost becomes 150, which is double than the first option. So that initially when you invest, we have to think, can I put 10% more money and get a lower life cycle cost? So for that, doing the life cycle cost, one must also tell what is the target life expected. So that's why I started with that talk, because usually in the tender documents we don't talk about how long I want. If you are building a house, let's say your own house, do you ask the builder or the consultant that I don't want to repair this house for another 50 years or another X years? We don't ask that question. Do we ask? Just think. Do we ask that question? How long my house should last? When we buy, but imagine it's not like cell phone. Cell phone I can replace. It's not very, it is not going to affect my life. But if I end up in replacing my house, it's going to affect my life. Whole lifetime earnings is put into that. So we have to we have to really think about the life of the structures which we are building, and like he said, even the interior, that also add up to a very large amount. Now this reminds me, about 2-3 decades ago, if you are talking about building a structure, most of the work will be on the concreting part. And then maybe 10, 20, 3 decades ago, if you think about, there will be a light, there will be a fan somewhere, right? That's it. Today, you have so many other things. Just look at this room around. So many other things, and which add a lot of cost to this. So, if you any of these things, they cost. The cost is very high. So earlier, the cost of the skeleton was 70%, and the remaining things maybe 30%, and now it is reverse.
Is it true that
Building will come up very fast, but the finishing is going to take much longer and costly.
many painting companies, they are claiming that they are providing weatherproof paint. So will it protect the steel bars inside the concrete?
Not in a, see, that's again, we should not quote, in my opinion, if you ask my personal opinion, we should not coat the steel rebars with anything which can be scratched very easily while walking on top. So we call it abrasion resistant. Okay, so if you rub it with some rough thing, it should not go. So galvanized steel, if you rub it, nothing will happen to that. It will not get scratched like epoxy coating or like paint you said. Paint, you should not put paint on rebar. You should only use another metal or a very hard material which will not really get scratched or damaged. So that's one thing. And if you talk to metallurgists, they say painting is different, coating is different. You don't, they won't accept this. These two are two different terms, right? I mean, you can
he is right, yeah, because painting is only a barrier protection. It's a barrier protection. Whereas the zinc and steel, while galvanization, they are metallurgically being connected through mechanical locking. So they diffuse into each other. So that's the benefit of a metallic coating. Regarding the government policies, I will say government is quite aware about the benefits of zinc and the galvanization of steel.
Yeah, that's
why?
Yeah.
Why? Because the critical infrastructure like the power grid, the transmission lines, the railway electrical catenary system on which the engine runs, it draws the power. The crash barriers on the highways. These are 100% essentially galvanized across India. But when it comes to the RCC construction, that means reinforced cement concrete construction, for constructing a bridge or constructing a small something road or something, then government is very flexible. They give ample choice. You can use this material, you can use that material, and there the specifiers, they do jugglery. You understand the specifiers, the PWD officials. So you are from media. If you write that that government should construct infrastructure which should last for 100 years without any maintenance, without any accident, because lot of bridges, you must have read in the newspaper or heard that during the monsoon season this bridge has collapsed, so many persons died, right? So that's not right, because in India life is very cheap, right? Very cheap, nobody bothers. But had it been a developed nation, then there will be a lot of hue and cry. So you should ask the government officials to use those sustainable materials which can give longer life to the structures.
So what about the reserves of zinc in India and India's global standing in terms of zinc reserves?
Oh, we have ample.
Before getting into that, I want to, because we'll keep that question because it's a little different. See, one thing I want to say, if you want to take out some key words from this discussion today, one thing is any tendering or when they place the contract, I would suggest the first sentence, if we can put, what is the corrosion-free service life? Corrosion-free service life for that structure. And also, we should be able to ask the engineers, they will say, yeah, it will last 100 years. But we should ask on what basis you are telling that. Okay? So the main problem is, when you talk about structural or mechanical behavior, structural capacity, day one of the structure, we know that it is going to be there because vehicles will go, so we know it is not collapsing. But durability, when we talk, we need decades to prove it. So that is where science comes into the picture, and then we have to study how the concrete's properties are, how the steel's properties are, and how they are, when you put steel in concrete, how they behave, and how that is going to affect the life of the structure. So these are two different things. One is, if you think, one is about mechanics, the other one is about chemistry of the materials. So we have to also start focusing on chemistry of the materials which we use. Now zinc in concrete, it works very well than steel, when you put the zinc coating on the steel, it works very well in terms of the chemistry. So they don't really create much problem, or it doesn't lead to corrosion. That is how we are getting long life, even without doing anything to the concrete. We are only changing the steel, that interface between steel and concrete. So that's what we are really looking at. So the key word here is enhancing or increasing the corrosion free service life. Don't use the word service life alone, because service life somehow, see, even when we get sick, we'll keep on taking medicines and we will live for longer, right? But the hospital bills are also very high, right? So our objective is reduce the hospital bills and then make sure that you are healthy, the structure is healthy, and then last for as long as we want without major maintenance. Okay, so contract documents are the key here. We have to bring in this word into the contract document, corrosion free service life. So every structural engineer, when they approve a building or systems for the building, they should look at corrosion free service life and how do we. So I know if you are going to write something, I want this word in that, corrosion free service life. Let us start talking about how to control corrosion. To control corrosion, zinc is best, one of the best technologies available is by use of zinc as a coating on the steel rebar. Now we also have other technology where zinc can be used, is called cathodic protection, where for the existing structures, not for the new structures. Existing structures, you will see that a lot of structures, I know in Chennai also we have a lot of structures which are facing corrosion. We can insert some of these zinc pieces into the concrete and connect it electrically to the rebar and it will protect. You can extend the life, it will stop corrosion of steel. Today if it is corroding, I bring this small piece of zinc, we call it galvanic anode, you drill a hole, just a hole, you don't have to remove concrete cover and all that. Drill a hole, put it inside, tie it with the rebar, and then that can give you another 20 years of life without any corrosion. Another 20 years. So imagine you have a building or your house which is already 30 years old and now it is experiencing corrosion, and I want another 20 years, you just do this. You don't have to remove everything and rebuild your house. This is something very important, cathodic protection using zinc anodes.
How many government departments using galvanized?
Very limited. Very limited. That's why unless you bring in this corrosion free service life into the contract document, these things will not happen. So we have to our target is that. So when you put that into the contract document, all other things will fall in place. Then the engineers will start thinking, now how do I make sure that will happen? Right? So but if you don't put the target, it is very difficult, So that's where we call, and another keyword I am telling, usually we say prescriptive specification. Like we say, if you're making concrete, we will say how much cement to put, how much aggregate to put, how much water to put, all that. I don't care about that. What I care is how that concrete will be. You put whatever you want in your concrete, how that concrete will behave. So we call it performance specification. Not prescriptive specification, but performance specification. If you want an analogy, let's say you go to a doctor. Do you really care what is inside the tablet you get? Do you really care what is inside the medicine which is given? We don't know what is inside, right? But we take the medicine based on the trust on the doctor and the trust on the medicine which we get. That is looking at the performance of that medicine. So we don't look at what is in. So when you buy concrete, why do you want to know how much cement I should put, how much this thing I should put? I want to know whether that concrete will last for 50 years or not. Right? That is the performance we are looking at. So I'm giving this medical analogy to
So in terms of stainless steel, there are a lot of grades. Like that, zinc also grades are there. Because some steels they corrode immediately, some steels come for like that also zinc. GA also in grade is something like that.
usually we go for 98-99%. There are grades, but
Yeah.
actually
Zinc is formed in a metal formed in a smelter. So different smelter have different type of percentage composition. So in India, generally 2 or 3 types of zinc is being manufactured by Hindustan Zinc. One is prime western grade that contains 98% zinc, and another is special high grade zinc that is 99.995% zinc, and third one is continuous galvanizing grade. So in that it contains 0.12% aluminium, and rest is aluminium, rest is zinc. So yes, but zinc is a metal. You can make an alloy of zinc, and there are several type of alloys. Yeah.
I have one more point there, I'm sorry. Generally zinc, since it is an element in itself, if you want to have a longer life, you increase the thickness of zinc. So you got 80 GSM, 120 GSM. So increasing the thickness is the solution to give it longer life.
Right.
You had I just wanted to ask, what is the reserve of zinc in India and what is India's global standing in terms of zinc reserves?
Yeah. So I mean Hindustan Zinc guys, they are sitting there. But okay, zinc, as you know, it comes by way of a ore, spotlight, and in India reserves are very concentrated. Especially these reserves are being found in Rajasthan area. However, in other areas also, exploration has taken place, and we have found new key reserves. As of now, India have got reserves of next 25 years, so we should not worry about the scarcity of zinc.
But what about the global standing in
Glo-
terms of zinc resources?
Zinc resources.
Yeah. Where
Yeah,
India-
so exploration keep on happening. For example, the world's largest red dog mine, that was being shut, and now underground mining is taking place. So new mines come up and the old mines get closed. So it's a phenomena. So there are several new mines which have been found in Peru region, in Zambia, South Africa region. So I mean it's a continuous job, and as such, world have got abundance of zinc reserves.
So what percentage of zinc used in India is imported?
Is imported.
Yeah.
So India have got a market of almost 1 million tons of zinc per year. Hindustan Zinc produces almost 7 or 800,000, you can say 800,000 tons of zinc, and rest 150-160,000 tons of zinc is being imported. So why it is getting imported? Because India have got free trade agreement with few countries like Korea, Japan, and Korea being one of the dominant producer of zinc, obviously they take advantage of FTA thing, and that's how zinc is
How
being
big an
imported.
exporter is India?
India is also exporting zinc to these FTA countries and to neighboring countries like Bangladesh, Southeastern countries, Middle East. Zinc is a global commodity, right? So the commodities do not have any barrier. So they can export zinc to any customer who is based in North America.
What about zinc ion batteries? Zinc batteries.
Yeah, so zinc energy storage solution, that's a new phenomena. You must have seen, everyone has seen the ever ready batteries, the Jeep batteries in the torch. What's that? That's a zinc battery, right? So we are seeing those type of batteries right from our childhood. But recently, we are more concerned about the lithium ion batteries because now EV vehicles have started coming in the market. So International Zinc Association is working with various universities and various companies who have come up with the breakthrough technology in zinc energy storage solutions, and very soon, especially the grid storage solutions. That means you can store power during the daytime from the PV modules, and then supply electricity during the night time or when required. Also, it is very ideal for server applications, because these servers, they require power backup, and zinc has proved to be one of the best material, rather better than lithium-ion batteries. Also, few experiments have been done on the passenger vehicles and two-wheelers on zinc battery energy storage solutions, and results are quite impressive. So I think there are two companies, Zinc and I'm forgetting the second company's name, and they have come out with this batteries for two-wheelers and four-wheelers.
But is it as effective as lithium? Can it deliver the same amount of power?
Oh yes. I mean, the problem with zinc batteries as of now, because it is in the evolution stage, right? So a lot of new things are happening. So problem is the initial torque, right? So for acceleration you require high density of charge. So that is the only problem. But when the speed gets stable, I think zinc is rather better than the lithium ion. And moreover, zinc batteries are quite safe. You have heard a lot of incidents of lithium ion EV vehicles getting fire, but we haven't heard anything about the zinc batteries. So it's quite safe for the passenger vehicles.
We should also cover this medical part, medicines, zinc.
Yeah, zinc.
We are talking
especially-
about other things. Let's talk about.
Yeah, especially during COVID. Yeah, during COVID pandemic, when there was no vaccine, obviously zinc was considered to be one of the main medicines, which increases the immunity, so that we can naturally, fight virus. And there are several medicines like Vicasul, Z+, Zincovit, so many, all the pharmaceutical companies, they have, yeah, it's a huge market. And Zincovit, I think Apex Pharma, they are based in Chennai only, right? Zincovit. And they were the highest OTC brand once during COVID time. So yes, and why we require zinc? Because unfortunately 50% of Indian soil is zinc deficient. Ideally, zinc should come through our natural food cycle. That means the plant absorbs zinc from the soil, they transfer it to the leaves or to the fruits, and when we eat those vegetables or fruits, then zinc automatically go inside our body. The how zinc works? Every human being have to take zinc on a daily basis. We eat zinc and we excrete it out daily. But till the time zinc stays inside our body, it increases our immunity by 4 times, right? So that is the key to the COVID fight. And I think zinc saved a lot of life.
How safe are the zinc factories to the environment? So, like some of the people.
In the domestic space. One problem with termite infestation is that you generally don't see them working. You will only see the outside layer of the wood, and till such time it is not possible to repair, you don't see it. So the problem is termites operate very clandestinely. You don't see them, and when you actually find them, it is too late. Now, other problems which you face in typical household furniture is you have fungus, you got hardware getting loose, etc., etc. Now there are multiple problems which the customers face, which can be actually resolved if you go with a metallic solution. From a customer's perspective, if you look at it, you look for these characteristics in a product. The functionality, the aesthetics, durability, ease of maintenance, then how cost effective it is. This is actually where zinc and galvanized steel has a big advantage, because this is the only material which can actually provide something which is similar to a wooden structure cost. Now I will just talk to you about the brand which we launched. It is called Metallo, and we are into interior solutions, primarily into kitchens and wardrobes and similar products. So it looks extremely good because it's all painted and nicely finished. And the advantage is that you don't have any of these pain points which we mentioned in the beginning. No termites, no hardware problems. Practically, this is something which will last for next 50 years without a problem. We gave a warranty of 20 years, but it will last for probably 50 years plus. We have done one. I mean, of course, we have not done something like what the IIT can do, but we did a salt spread test, which is actually the most standard test which is done to evaluate the corrosion performance of a material. As per the BIS standard, the corrosion test is done for I think 94 hours or something. All the material which we tested, stainless steel, GI and powder coated GI, all met the requirement. But what is of interest is that the life of powder coated GI was 240 hours plus, which is like more than 3 times the recommended period. But even then, it was still having no problem. The sample number 1 here is actually galvanized steel with powder coating on it. So it's practically indestructible, and if you use products made of all this material, for the next 50 years you will not have any problem. So I just thought I'll show you these images so that you get a better understanding of the problems involved.
For the 50 years, I should not be doing any structural repair. Just like we change cloth every day, painting is fine because that is more to do with the aesthetics of the structure. We change cloth every day, but our bone and flesh we don't change every day. So we are talking about bone and flesh. When you talk about concrete structures, the main concept of today
due to corrosion. Now that is primarily about steel structures, but in our day-to-day life, the loss is actually much more because steel is not the only material we use, and we are talking specifically about the interior, your home interiors. The most commonly used material inside your home is actually wood. Your cupboards, your furniture, your doors, your windows, everything is manufactured in wood. And again, the concept of cost of ownership. You have 20 years, 30 years or 40 years when you are going to use that residence, you need to keep on spending money. And the reason is, it's a fight against the weathering elements of nature. Corrosion, put in simple terms, is basically oxidization of metal. Steel is primarily iron. Iron in its natural condition acts as iron oxide. So, nature has a tendency to bring back things to equilibrium. Same thing happens to wood. Wood, the main problem which people face is actually termites. I am sure most of the people here
Metallurgically beyond connected through mechanical locking, so they diffuse into each other. So that's the benefit of a metallic coating. Regarding the government policies, I will say government is quite aware about the benefits of zinc and the galvanization of steel.
Yeah, that's
Why?
what I wanted to
Yeah.
tell
Why?
that.
Because the critical infrastructure like the power grid, the transmission lines, the railway electrical catenary system on which the engine runs, it draws the power, the crash barriers on the highways. These are